Hi, we're HiFi interns, and all three of us are game developers. I'm Sean Fargas, and I'm a programmer.
I'm Javier Aquino, and I am a game artist.
I'm Joaquin Miguel Ipineda. I'm also a game artist.
So I guess I'll start. So a quick background about myself is that I've been a game dev student since 2019. Worked on a couple titles. Our latest title called Folklore recently won an award at our capstone exhibition for highest grade. It's a roguelike based on Philippine mythology, and it's a so if you don't know what a roguelike is, it's a game where each run is randomly generated, and so when the player plays it, they don't get the same experience each time. And so I was the artist behind it. I did a lot of the animations, the background behind it, and yeah, it was a great game. I liked it.
So, me, I am a programmer who just recently finished their capstone, and I'm actually with Joaquin. And our capstone won 2 awards for Best Capstone and an Outstanding Capstone Award. And so basically, our capstone is mostly about flood, like what to do before, during, and after floods. So it's mostly about an educative game on disaster risk and preparation.
I'm Joaquin Miguel Ipineda. I've been a game dev student since 2020. Yes, I've also worked on the same flood game. I was the main artist there.
So, game dev prepares us to make to enter the video game industry, and so we make these video game projects, our capstones, as a getting our feet wet into the industry, basically. What it's like to make a video game, what it's like to show off a video game, and so, while we're studying these things, it makes us wonder, about the business of the game dev industry. And so, what we are here to talk about today is actually a book called Disciplined Entrepreneurship by Bill Ollett. So this book is a 24-step guide on startups and how to succeed a startup.
Have we ever wondered about the business of our industry? Like, for example, when we just, it was our first year of game development, have we ever wondered how the business of gaming is introduced, to gamers like us or game developers like us?
Yes, actually, because with game development, you've always see when a game fails and when a game succeeds, and you always wondered explicitly why. Because sometimes a game can have a huge player count, earned a lot of money, but still have the chance of failing. For example, years ago, remember the game Hi-Fi Rush?
Yeah.
That game succeeded successfully. It succeeded with many people praising it.
No
It even
relation
won
to Hi-Fi,
award.
by the way.
Yeah, actually.
It won awards, but the studio eventually got shut down.
Hmm.
Then the most recent game of Call of Duty, although it got a lot of players back into Call of Duty, and it focused more also on the multiplayer and some aspects, it still didn't outshine games like Battlefield 6 or this rate Marvel Rivals, because
Yeah.
it's still a highly competitive market that's trying to fight for their consumers. You wonder why that happened. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, for me, when I was a first year game development student, I know that game development isn't just about developing a game, but it's also a business that gamers actually sell their products to different customers or players. So it's not just about developing a game, but knowing how to distribute the game, or if this game is viable for selling people, or if people can actually pay for your product. So yeah.
I guess my earliest interest in game development, it's there was always this goal of making money from it, because
Yeah.
you're selling a product, and you have all of these you hear all of these success stories, such as from Toby Fox with Undertale, a solo developer making lots of money off this one super cool successful game, or Concerned Ape. You know,
So Flappy Bird.
yeah, or a Flappy Bird, like all of those indie success stories, and you know, those are really inspiring stories. But for every like one successful story, you've also got 1,000 or even 1,000,000 failures, but that no one hears about. And so, you know, like you might think you might be this next indie star, but you know, you really need to know a lot. You need to have the discipline. You have to have the skill, and of course, you also have to be lucky. So
Also the experience. of course.
yeah, experience.
Okay, since we're here to talk about yung disciplined entrepreneurship book, you guys think of one sentence that you can say to sell this book to someone?
I would call it a rigorous guide to starting a business and making money.
If you're business illiterate, you can actually learn a lot from this book and make you interested in starting up a business, or maybe turning your profession or hobbies into a business.
Mine's quite simple. You want to start a business?
Yeah, okay.
That works.
All right. So let's start with what's the book about. How do we explain the book's core ideas to someone who's never heard of entrepreneurship?
For me, as a game development student, we're not really focusing much about marketing and everything, since it's about development. So I would say the book shows or is a guide for business or entrepreneur illiterate people, and to actually help them start. Yeah.
Well, the book, for me, I'd say that the book, the core ideas of the book is focusing on the customer, the person who's going to be paying for your product and getting benefit from it, solving their problems. And so, well, entrepreneurship aims to address those problems, those customer pain points, as a term that gets brought up in the book a lot.
How would I just explain the book's core ideas would be just, it's more or less just a guide on how to improve your chances on trying to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Although, as you said, you have to keep in mind that it's always going to be about the customer itself. So, how are you going to get the customer? How are you gonna improve the life or quality of life to your customer? So it's generally just about that. But
Okay.
as mentioned, it's discipline entrepreneurship. So what do you guys think discipline means in this context?
I'll start.
Yeah.
So, well, discipline means within the book you have a lot of frameworks, methodologies to work with, a lot of like practical things that you can apply to your business. But of course, there's also coming up with a specific mindset that you have to develop when coming into into entrepreneurship, creating startups. So yes, it's both practical and subjective.
So as for me, since you're already having like a guide, it would teach you a process as to how you're going to do things. Like you're not gonna overscope on things. You'll just be focused on one track. And for me, that is what discipline means in the book.
I definitely agree with you about the fact that it's more of a process, but I also believe it's sort of a structure that you can always go back to, because it's, as mentioned in the book, that you don't have to go through this book linearly. You can start at one place, but remember that
Important parts.
remember the important parts, and also you'll see that you'll always have to go back to previous steps. So now, what do you guys think? Is the book more of a manual, a philosophy?
Like what we said since the beginning, that it is somewhat like a guide to all of the people who wants to start a business. So yeah, you have it.
Well, it's both. It's both a manual. It gives you practical tool tips to help. And it's also a philosophy, because it, like, for example, well, I'll get into it later on the podcast, but it deals a lot with why are you doing this? What's your reason for doing this specific industry, it gets into it more beyond making money and more beyond just the practical things about it.
I think it's more of a manual, in my opinion, because it's supposed to just guide you. If you want to treat it as a philosophy, you can, but it's really shouldn't be something that you should always believe in, because sometimes you think it might not work, but sometimes the steps within are not as properly defined, maybe in your market, but just know that it's just supposed to be something that helps you. Maybe you can. Okay, this actually relates to the fifth point. What types of assumptions does it make about founders and markets? But the one in my opinion, the book makes the assumption that it will this entire foundation, the entire process, it will have to work. Well, it would work in any type of market. It makes that assumption. So whether you're in the game development market, the software market, or any kind of food market, it'll always assume that all 24 steps would be able to be applied here. So,
Well, I think one of the assumptions it makes is that generally assumes that the reader or the founder is it's their first time coming up with a startup, and I'd agree with you on that other point about markets. Is that it also assumes that it can be applied to all kinds of markets, but of course, depends on specifics.
For me, you can apply it to any type of market as long as you have a product or a service that can be sold to a customer, and basically that's it. So, what problem is Olet solving with this book?
I'll go first. So Olet, he is a entrepreneur. He's been in the business since the 90s. He worked at IBM, and he's now chair of MIT's something in MIT business course at MIT. He said that his reason for writing the book is that there weren't really a lot of disciplined, books that have clear frameworks on entrepreneurship. And he's also stated that for every successful startup he's seen, there are hundreds, even thousands that he's seen that have failed. And so he wants to basically streamline learning entrepreneurship into a single, concise, and condensed book.
Basically, he took one of his experiences and the experience of other businesses into making it into a book to guide other people, right? Something like that. Yeah.
As you mentioned, it's all about trying to get more. I'd say it's more about trying to get more people into entrepreneurship itself and trying to get them to properly succeed. As I said earlier, it's not always going to be guaranteed that you will succeed in entrepreneurship. If you've read the book, it's always going to be about luck, how passionate you are, how your dedication. So
because a lot of people actually want to start a business, right? But they really don't know where to start. Like example, for me, I want to start a business, but ever since I haven't read this book before, I have no idea where to start or how to start it, But now it gives me a clear idea for a track or a path that I could take into starting it. Something like that.
Speaking of startups, what do you think who do you think is the book trying to aim for? Is it trying to produce repeatable startups or trying to create better decision makers?
I'd say it's trying to create better decision makers because, a lot of it, from the very beginning, it says, you really have to consider whether this is actually something you want to do, because when you start a startup, it's very risky. It's very you're risking time, you're risking energy, you're risking money, especially. So from the very first start, from the very first concept of the thing, you have to be making good decisions, and if you make a bad decision, you have to be able to bounce back from it quickly. So yeah.
Yeah, for me too. It's about making better decision makers as to, reading the book, since it has a process and a framework. It helps the entrepreneur to have somewhat like a safety net. For example, plan B, plan C. If ever things go or fail, they know how to bounce back, like as Javi said.
I'd also have to agree with you about it creating better decision makers. Although I'd also have to say you can technically use it for repeatable startups because more or less this is again a guide. Whether or not the guide will help you succeed, it's all up to the decisions on you and along with the current market that you're in. Because
Yeah.
sometimes it'll be shaky, sometimes it'll be a lot more clear for you.
Yeah.
So long as you have the foundations naman of your business, you have a better chance on trying to succeed. So, what do you think the book defines as the success of an entrepreneur? Is the definition a bit narrow or broad?
So, I'd say that it is, well, I guess broad because in one chapter, there was a specific quote I remember distinctly. It asks the reader, what is the single necessary condition for having a business? And the answer to that question is simply having a paying customer. And so, yeah, once you have a paying customer, you've got a business. But I'd say that for it to be successful, you'd have to have a customer that buys the product, spreads awareness about the product, and continues to buy the product or similar product in a similar manner.
I'd actually slightly disagree because I think the measure of success that the book is trying to give for an entrepreneur is whether or not a customer is willing to come back to get to your product. Because remember the book again is always going to be about the customer itself.
Yeah.
So long as you're able to get more and more customers to continue coming back to your product, you already know you've succeeded in trying to do the main goal, which is trying to improve their lives or trying to give them something.
For me, by reading the book, the definition is a bit broad because it can be put into different factors, like what have you said. If the customer pays, also, if the customer is happy with the product, if he come back, he come back for the product, and if the lifetime value of the product is, if it can profit the company and it will also benefit the customer in the end as well.
What would failure look like if you done the book incorrectly?
Well, failure, for example, if you don't follow the book or the examples in the book, you would risk your business into losing profits and losing, especially, customers.
Well, I'd say that you'd fail it really early on because, for example, with the market segmentation is an early part in the book. The book advises you to conquer a beachhead market early on. It's finding a niche. If you don't find that early on, then you might be able to sell your product a little bit, but it'll eventually taper off and lose out to the bigger, more dominant businesses in a certain area. So that would be your business might sell a few things, but eventually you won't be able to compete at all.
I'd say you'd know you've failed as a business once you realize you're unable to properly continue on. You aren't able to identify what type of customer you're trying to sell your product to, who you're trying to market to, and you're unable to continue creating more of your own product because you lack the proper knowledge of anything. In your opinion, is the book good enough to help consumers with entrepreneurship? But allow me to break it down into more simple questions with who won't value from this book and why?
For me, actually, I think everyone can get value from this book since they are breaking down every single thing on how to build up a business, start up a business, create a product, how to sell the product. So I can't see why as to how anyone or any other person can not get value from this book because it educates you on uh, building up businesses.
Well, I'd say that, yeah, there's lessons to be learned in the book, but if you're really not interested in starting a business, you're not gonna get much of value from the book. So, yeah, might as well skip it.
Uh, I'd say it's just people who are not really about starting business, but who are just in it just for the money itself. Okay. Do you think it's a combination of reading and practice? What do you think? What combination do you think would make it most successful? I'd say just have the first try to have the practice of entrepreneurship or the idea first. Just as I mentioned earlier, the book is supposed to be just a guide, so you can just try to follow it by step, just to try to break into a sort of a market. Once you've actually done that, maybe you'll be able to find success.
Yeah, basically, practicing it will help you have more experience and learn more through your mistakes and actually succeed.
Well, I'd say the book's useful on its own, but also combining it with business courses, even short ones, makes it more useful.
I also forgot to mention you. It's also highly recommended in the book that you actually find mentors to actually help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that's actually a good
Which
tip
you can
too.
find at business incubators like HiFi.
That's true.
Do you think the book could replace other classic literature in starting businesses, such as Lean Startup, or do you think this book will complement them?
I mean, I wouldn't say replace them, but like more on adding more context or like having these two books. You do not make them like competitors or anything. You use these for stacking up knowledge into your entrepreneurship. Like you don't just use one book; you use all of it.
So I'll just clarify. Lean Startup is a business methodology that aims to build new products and companies by focusing on rapid experimentation. So it emphasizes creating MVPs and the build, measure, learn feedback loop. So creating things, failing at things, and building things better. Well, I wouldn't say it replaces that methodology, but it certainly complements it because you'll end up doing something like that along the way when you follow the steps of this book, iterating on products and MVPs.
Okay. Let's try to condense the entire book down to 3 actionable rules. What do you think it'll be? Because I'd say the 3 actionable rules would be you have to fully understand your product, completely, or at least better know who and what your market is, and really aggressively try to get into that market.
For me, find the customer pain, find a solution to that pain, find a way to get customers to pay for that.
Well, for me, it's actually like that too. So we need to find the problem of the customers, and we need to address those problems. Like, what are those solutions, and how can we distribute those to the customers?
Okay, let's start talking more about what we learned from the book. What do you think is the single most useful tool or framework that you learned from it?
I'll go first. I'd say that the most useful tool is the framework of market segmentation, because some people might be indecisive on a specific market that they want to enter into. Market segmentation helps them find the specific market by breaking it down into a whole. Specifically the market segmentation matrix. It breaks it down into a whole spreadsheet. Helps them figure out, okay, what can I do here? What can I do here? What are the pain points? What are the people looking for? And I'd say that's very useful, even for all kinds of businesses, startups, entrepreneurs.
For me, honestly, I'd say it's the framework of trying to map out how to acquire a paying customer. Because if you noticed in if you noticed in game development in popular game businesses, they always try to find ways to get people to know their product. But for them to do that, they have to first realize who exactly their market is, if even it exists. And once they do figure that they do exist, they automatically try to find ways to connect with them. And once they have properly connected with them, it's all about trying to reel them in, trying to get them invested. So it's more of a trick of the mind of getting people to get your product. Then it's also about trying to get them sort of addicted to it. Have their loyalty into getting that and getting into your product. Then once you have that, you will automatically have customers who will go back and back and back to whatever you want.
Okay. Well, as for me, the most useful framework for me is identifying and testing the key assumptions. In identifying key assumptions, you ask if customers would pay for your product. Does it work? Will they actually use it? And what is the feedback loop based on the customers? And then when you answer those questions, you can actually test it. For example, in our industry, we want to make a board game. We don't actually make a code of that board game or straight away. We actually use prototypes. Like, let's say for a board game, card game, you just use paper. You test out how it works, and if you can see that it doesn't work, you can actually maneuver or change your mechanics and everything. So I think that's very useful into making your product before selling it. So, yeah.
Okay. Here's quite an interesting one. Out of all the 24 steps, or the steps that we've all read, what do you think that founders normally ignore? And why do you think it's quite dangerous to ignore it?
Well, for me, the most dangerous thing that founders usually ignore is the calculation of their cost of customer acquisition. Because most founders usually spend a lot in this area, and then in return, their lifetime value, or like the amount of how much the customer pays during their time or stay with the company, is lesser than the cost of customer acquisition. So like, let's say I spend 5 million on advertising this game, for example, and then I only got 10,000 players, and those 10,000 players only spent like how much? 250 pesos or 500 for the game. Like, if you estimate those, that's like you're losing money. You're not actually making profit. So in the book, it says that the golden rule is the 3-to-1 ratio. That the lifetime value should always be 3 times the cost of customer acquisition. So yeah, a lot of founders or entrepreneurs forget about this.
For me, step 0. A lot of people, they want to get into starting a startup with the primary goal of making money. Making money is good, yes, but you need to have either an idea, you need to be able to leverage your technology, or you need to have a certain thing you're passionate about. You need this reason for being. It's this thing they keep mentioning in step 0. Like, why are you doing this beyond money? Like, do you care? Do you actually care about what you're doing? And a lot of people, I guess, they skip that. They go straight to, trying to maximize their profits and fail. So, you need to think more. You need to think beyond profits, I'd say.
Honestly, I think the thing that founders normally ignore is trying to identify what their core is, or defining what their core is, because a lot of companies these days, whether it's be in game development or somewhere else, they always forget what business they're in. Because if you remember, something like McDonald's, a lot when they originally started, they originally thought they were in the burger making business, as if you've watched the movie. They originally thought they were in the burger making business, so they had multiple people try to franchise, trying to build up the restaurant. However, it was only later on did they realize that it's not really about making burgers, but real estate, trying to get people to buy your land to make the businesses themselves. Then from then on, it's not really about whether or not how much they can sell, although that is a sort of factor, but how many people can go to that, how many people can get to that properly, or how much you can sell that properly to different people.
Okay. So, can one of you share one concrete example where this framework would have changed a startup?
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's a startup, but there's one. Well, there's one game that came out last year and failed immediately. This game was called Conquered. Yeah. So this game, the developers went into this game thinking that they could break into the hero shooter genre, and well, they wanted to make a lot of money from it because the developers invested, I think, 400 million into it or something. Or
What was the name of the company again for Concord?
let me look it up.
I think it was.
Got to get facts correct on this because you don't want to spread
Because
misinformation.
if I'm not mistaken, they really thought they had a game breaker on their hands, because again, during the time, it was the age of the hero shooter.
Firewalk Studios. There we go.
Who were they owned by? I could have sworn they were owned by maybe Sony, I think.
Firewalk Studios. Yeah, Sony Interactive.
Okay, so I'll help you build off on that point, because if you remember, the reason why Concord failed, or what they believe would make Concord a success, was because it was a hero shooter. They had everything from the heavy weapons person, the the character with the special ability, all that jazz. But once it actually released to the market, not only did it fail spectacularly, they had to pull the game out less than a week later.
Yeah, and I did check the figures for it. Yes, $400 million was spent on the game's development, making it one of the largest ever failures in video game history.
Yeah, I remember not really the backlash, the reviews for it. People ripped the game to shreds, if you remember, because a lot of people criticized their not only just their character designs, but also the types of characters they are. They're just too generic, nothing to really outshine the competition, which at the time was Overwatch. Although it eventually Overwatch got outshined by Marvel Rivals, but you get the point, naman.
Yeah, it didn't do anything differently that was already out there, and so that's, they underestimated the power of the established products that were already out there.
I'd also say they didn't properly understand their market's decision-making unit.
Yeah.
Because, again, they just thought that because it's a hero shooter and they followed the general basics of what a hero shooter is about, they think, oh, people will just buy this. But no, people actually had decisions to make when getting the hero shooter, because this game was still a paid game.
Yes, I was about to mention that.
This is a paid game with nothing unique about it. For example, what made Overwatch unique, it's a vast different amount of characters with different special abilities. They have different shapes, sizes. They come from anywhere.
Then Overwatch 2 became free.
Yeah, they eventually became free, but
Did they actually change something there?
Yes, they did change something there. They removed the loot boxes.
Okay, so.
But they eventually brought it back, so that's why it's failing. Anyway, but running off topic, what do you have another concrete example?
I mean,
You can add doors.
Is it okay if it's not about gaming?
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
So I have this cousin, and they started up this business, clothing business, and they tried to actually spend money on ads, so at least people in, for example, Instagram, can view their products. And the only problem there is that they spent too much on that. So I mean, they acquired customers through that, but they did it on a like monthly basis. So I think the problem there was that uh, new customers were already flowing, and they should have just, you know, uh,
They weren't able to supply the demand.
yeah, something like that. They over advertised, and they didn't actually consider the amount of products that they already have and the time of their manufacturings, or maybe let's say resellings or getting products from other stores that they could sell. So yeah, they should really uh, check first, you know, on the money that they spend before doing it. Not
Uh,
just because it's like it's giving you, giving the business benefits. It doesn't equate to long-term benefits, you know.
Okay. Going from that, do you think the book changed your view on failure and iteration? Because for me, I'd say we now, well, this is not really new information, but it's also more on life that failure is going to be a constant naman. And with being an entrepreneur, failure is really likely. It's not, you'll not always succeed. You'll always see businesses go out until you can make the next idea, or whether or not your idea is excellent. So if you can't get it to the people, or you don't fully understand anything, you will fail, but that's already a commonality.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it didn't really change my view on failure and iteration because, you know, you kind of eventually learn, I guess, throughout life that, you know, you're not gonna succeed at everything. You're gonna, you know, fail sometimes, but so long as you just get back up and keep trying again. And well, for people who've never had those lessons learned to them, I feel like that's what they would learn from the book.
Well, to me, it changed my view on failure. On since before I already know how business fails, you know, but diving deeper into the book, like I could understand that you can actually know how your business will fail based on the processes on the book, like the mistakes, and having the formulas will help you reach that successful point, you know. And yeah.
Okay. What do you think a learning from the book can be applied immediately?
Yes.
Mind giving an example? Because
Reason for being. So that comes from step 0. It's sorry. Did I get okay? Reason for being. That comes from step 0, and that is that comes from the passion path of choosing a reason to starting your business. And you know, your reason for being is basically, why do you want to start this business? But beyond that, it's like, what are you doing with your life? Why are you doing the things that you are doing today? What is it ultimately leading up to? What's your purpose in life? Basically, that's what it is.
I can agree with that because a lot of businesses these days, or early businesses these days, they're always going to think about the money itself.
Yeah.
But they don't truly understand exactly why some people do it. You have some people trying to cash into certain markets without fully understanding their purpose, or why they're trying to do what they do. That's why these days you always have something like cheap knockoffs from the real brands,
Yeah.
or why people always try to innovate what's already existing, but don't understand why they're doing it. They just see it as a way to just earn money from themselves.
That's why appreciating your customers and customer satisfaction is very important, because a business is not just about money, but like what you guys said a while ago, the business is about the customers.
All right, let me ask you some questions in regards to chapter 0 to 8. So first question I'd like to ask is, which chapter do you think is the densest, and which chapter do you think is the most clear to you? Which one do you really understand just from the get-go?
Well, chapter 1 I'd say is the most dense because all it actually breaks it up into two chapters. There's chapter 1 and chapter 1A. So chapter 1 is market segmentation. Chapter 1A is PMR, primary market research. And so you're breaking up your market into, so in market segmentation, it asks you to brainstorm 15 to 20 potential markets, put them in a giant matrix, and find out which specific one you want to break into, or could be a potential beachhead market. Chapter 1A talks about primary market research. It asks you to investigate the market, get in touch with customers, get in touch with their pain points, and so on. So chapter 1 is, it's a very dense chapter. Clearest chapter, chapter 2, select the beachhead market. You're pretty much just going off all of the work you've done for chapter 1, and it's pretty straightforward. Find a niche that you can conquer.
Okay, allow me to ask this. How did the book advise when choosing a beachhead market? What really stuck out?
Well, as I said before, the book advises you to find the beachhead market that you can that's small enough, that won't strain your resources, and one that you can realistically expect to completely conquer, as in completely get the entirety of the market share of that place.
Okay, next thing I'd like to ask is, what surprised you about customer profile and the value quantification?
Well, when it comes to customer profiling, you're basically trying to get into the customer's life. You're really like looking at everything they do, like their not just their basic demographics like age, gender, so and so, but like their psychographics, their fears, their aspirations, their beliefs, and you're going into like even their income, what they spend their money on, and finding out proxy products, which are these things that the customers spend on that might relate back to the startup you're trying to create. So, for example, like the book doesn't mention this explicitly, but the political and ethical beliefs of a person will influence what they purchase. So someone who's environmentally conscious will, who that buys electric cars will more likely buy a product that has, a clear ethical advantage or a product that's more sustainable than others, even if it might be more expensive.
Okay, let's start moving on to the next couple chapters. For chapters 9 and 16, I've covered this.
That's right.
How about I ask?
Okay.
So, in your section, how did Olet link product definition to competitive positioning?
Okay, here's the pretty fun thing. Okay, with competitive positioning, it's all about trying to identify what makes you different from your market. That's what your products should be about, or the definition of your product. What do you do that's different from everyone else? Because in relation to game development, let's take for instance the FPS market. It is incredibly broad. So let's try narrowing it down to something like Call of Duty or Call of Duty. It is a very big. All they're doing is right now is just FPS with campaign, and their huge focus really is more on competitive side and trying to make everything story rich. Now, take for instance Battlefield. Although they're also an FPS, although it's FPS and they're also focused on multiplayer, they do things very incredibly different with trying to emphasize more open world, more destruction, while also trying to maintain a sort of sandbox feeling to how players can feel the game.
All right. Moving on. How do you interpret the core of a product from these chapters? Give an example.
Okay. Say for instance, do you know the... Okay, again, relating to game development, because that's where we're all in. Do you know the company of Telltale?
Oh, yeah. Telltale Games, yeah.
Okay. For those who don't know, Telltale Games is a very widely known company for their choose-your-own-adventure choose-your-own-adventure game that's really rich on story. with that said, that is literally their core gameplay because at the time, which was around the late 2000s, early 2010s, not many people actually did it in their own way. However, as they continued to grow on, they didn't really try to improve onto that core. They just thought to themselves that, okay, with our core, maybe we can't improve onto it, so let's just keep pumping out the same thing. All their games at the time was just the same thing with just quick time events, make it story rich, without realizing the choices they made within those adventure games. It always comes to more or less the same specific outcome. And as they continuing on as a company, they just kept doing over and over again until people got incredibly sick. Fast forward a couple years later, the studio of Ad Hoc, I'm pretty sure you've heard of this game, the game called Dispatch. I honestly love it.
Oh, yeah.
They do the same style that they did with Telltale. However, they mixed it up by having a sort of dispatching, because the game's all about dispatching heroes to different problems and other stuff. Although the Telltale formula there is their very core, which would be their bones, the dispatching part would be the meat that everyone will always get into, and they mix that well into the story and the decisions they'll make. It changes the outcome and story of different characters. So it's very incredible to see these days.
Interesting. So, now, which chapter would be hardest for a creative founder, such as an artist or a musician, to apply to?
Okay, going broadly in terms of creative founders, I'd say the hardest is trying to acquire a customer, which would be step 13. Okay, with step 13, you have to try to get people to buy your product. It's more, I wouldn't say it's more on the business side, but if you know you have something and a lot of people like it, how do you get people to try out your product? For instance, I'll try not to relate this too much to game development, but say for instance you have a special soft drink with a special formula. You think it tastes good and you want other people to try it. However, how do you differentiate that from others? So you have to know whether or not there's a market for your specific type of soda. You then, after you know that there's a market, you have to try to find ways to get it out there. Try to get people to know about it. So once you get to know about it, as I mentioned way earlier about step 13, step 13, after you get people to know about it, you have to try to get them to buy it. And once you do, and you actually get them, I don't want to say addicted to it, once you actually get them into your product, you will always have a foundation of customers always coming back to you. But you also have to remember you have to build on top of that. That goes the same for any type of artist. For, let's say, a painter, once you make one art and you get people to actually like it, they'll try to see what's your next one. Say a Twitter artist, they have a work, they gain more followers and more followers. But here is the questioning of whether or not you can build upon that or continue supplying the type of art that you want to showcase. It also applies to musicians then, because musicians always have to find new ways to create music in their certain genre. They have to dip their toes maybe into other genres, get other people. The key thing about it is just trying to find ways or trying to encourage people to get into what you're trying to sell. That's the point I'm trying to make.
All right. So do you find any contradictions between the chapters you did and chapters 0 to 8?
Quite the opposite, actually. Because if you realize and actually read through chapters 9 to 16, it's not really contradicting. It's more of building upon what's already there. For example, I believe it was one of your chapters of trying to find your beachhead market.
Chapter 2, yeah.
Yeah, for your chapter 2, once it actually chapter 14, yeah, it's calculating the total addressable market size, but this time instead of that niche market, it's trying to go outside to other types of markets. Okay, allow me to relate that to game development. I'm sure you've heard of Steam. The okay, who hasn't? But before the 2020s, Steam has always been locked to PC, right?
Yeah.
Now, once with the rise of handheld devices, well, rise again of handheld devices, Steam decided to go into that market by expanding it. They've already dominated the PC market and decided to go for the handheld market. And then they released the Steam Deck. Now, after the Steam Deck and the continued success of it, giving people access to their Steam accounts on the go, they decided to have the Steam Machine, which is a console version, gives you access. Yeah, gives you access like your PC. But the difference here for consoles is that not only will you have access to, I believe, console games, but you'll also have free access to online connections compared to something like PS Plus.
PSN, Xbox Live.
Sucks to be them.
Moving on to Sean now.
Yep.
So, Sean, you did chapter 17 to 24. How does Olet recommend proving traction before scaling? Is that realistic?
Well, he mostly talked about this in step 23, whereas it means that you should show that the dogs eat the dog food. So, yes. Basically, what he is saying there that you need to prove that people are actually using your product or your game. A good example for that in our industry, in the gaming industry, as Joaquin has mentioned a while ago, Steam. In Steam, there are game reviews that people can actually look at. So a lot of people base it on the game reviews. If the game is actually good, like you can see different categories of it, like their experience with it was satisfactory, okay, or if it's overwhelmingly positive. And having that, you can actually see that it is proving the traction or proving the success of your game as of now. So yeah, and it's very realistic since you're basing it on real comments or feedback of players or customers.
All right. So, what operational systems did the book prioritize for scale? Which seemed optional?
So again, basing this on the game development standpoint, in game development, in operational systems to generate revenue, we could use, most games use systems like a battle pass. For example, Apex Legends, Overwatch,
Rivals,
everything. So, yeah, basically, battle pass is like a tier-based reward system for players who pay for one time and then grind out the game to gain cosmetic rewards. Well, yeah, mostly cosmetic, right?
Cosmetic rewards, in-game currency.
Yeah, in-game currencies that you can use to buy cosmetic rewards again, or maybe skins, basically. So yeah, that's one business model or operational system, and another one is subscription models like Xbox Game Pass. You know that?
Yeah, Xbox Game Pass, EA Play.
EA Play, or maybe Google Play Pass on phones or Android, and there's also an Apple, I think. Forgot the name though, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure what you call this iTunes.
No. Something like that, I guess.
Apple Arcade.
Yeah, that one.
There
that
we go.
one. Exactly,
Apple
that
Arcade?
one. Apple Arcade. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have that one too. So basically, in subscription models, you subscribe for a specific amount of time, for 1 month, 3 months, or maybe annually, and then you have access to a specific variety of games. Like, let's say, for example, Minecraft. Minecraft is free to play when you have Xbox Game Pass for this month.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you know that?
No, what
Yeah.
do you mean it's available for Xbox? You're telling me I bought...
No. Xbox Game Pass. So basically, they have games, right?
Yes.
When you subscribe to them for 1 month, the pool of games there will be free for you.
Include any type of version of Minecraft, not just.
Whatever's
Whatever they
displayed.
offer you.
Yeah, whatever they offer you, basically. Yeah.
I'm double checking that later.
Yeah. So yeah, but the problem with that is that they have a pool, right, of games. For example, the first tier, you pay, let's say, 250 pesos, for example, and then you get access to 50 games in that pool of games, and that's the only problem. You need to make sure that the game that you want to play is actually in their
Catalog.
in that catalog. So yeah, that's the only. But at least you get to play or test the game out before buying it, right?
The thing I'd like to point out about the negative of that is that they always have the option. Actually, no, something like Xbox Game Pass always removes specific types of games.
Yeah,
Whether
exactly.
whether or not how long they've been available. I'm not sure if it's just a licensing issue, or okay. Sorry for going in a slight
sorry,
rant,
sorry.
but
Go ahead.
they always remove specific types of games, even though if you have them installed.
Yeah,
It-
I've experienced one of those too. Yeah.
Well, after chapter 24, what would be your first 3 priorities as a founder?
Well, I mean, basing on the steps in 1724, for me, defining the minimum viable business product is that's 1. 2, showing that the dogs will eat the dog food. That's 2. Okay. I mean, and then develop a product plan. That's 3. So, I want to say that defining the minimum viable business product, that is a huge priority, as that will help you test out if the bare minimum of your game can actually be improved based on user reviews or your players, and then knowing that, you could follow up with that step 23, which is the dogs will eat the dog food, right? So if having good reviews based on your product, you could continue with developing a product plan. In product plans, you point out what types of updates that you will be doing in the following months or terms, depending on how you calculate that. So you could show the users what they can expect in the upcoming seasons of your game.
All right.
On your spinning in 3, 2, 1.
And we're back. Okay, so concluding with your segment, we'll now move on to what is one line you'd highlight for every reader to remember?
Okay, for me, one highlight I'd like every reader to remember is understand what's the core of your business. Because once you already know that, you can practically just build off of it and always reinforce. The other matters beyond that, it's just building around that core. Because trying to get your customer, what are you trying to get your customer for? That's going to be your core. How else are you gonna expand your company? Just look at your core and what do you want to build off of? What other markets can be related to that? For instance, as I said, okay, I haven't said this before, but I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of Nintendo.
Yeah.
Back in the late 70s, they've always done, well, at the time, they've normally done arcade cabinets and games for that. But once they identified their core of making video games and other stuff like that, they decided to expand to home consoles with the rise of it back in the early 80s. So once they've expanded to home consoles and made that their new main market, they became a sensation.
All right.
Okay. For me, one line that I'd like to highlight is to not ignore the customer feedback. Why? Because customer feedback actually helps you build your product into a better one. And, for example, in our capstone, in our game, we have made, for us, based on us, the developers, for us, the game is already good enough to be played by other players. But, of course, we did game testings and everything to check out for bugs. And surprisingly, they're all good. But we let other players outside of the game development industry to test out our product, and they have a lot of comments about it that actually are very helpful for us to improve it. When we address those comments, and we actually tested the game out again. It actually turned out into a better game, a better, solid, and more stable game. So yeah, never
Alright.
ignore your customer feedback.
Yeah. For me, I'd say that one line I'd like every reader to remember is have a passion for solving a customer pain. So, I mean, this is really what it's all about. So, one line I'd like to highlight for every reader to remember is to have the passion for solving a customer pain. So, every good business idea kind of hinges on
How dedicated they're.
like solving a problem that doesn't have that people, I guess, don't really know that they have, or that like just offering people
That's true.
something better than the current status quo. And so, if you have that passion for solving the customer pain, for creating a solution to a problem that exists, then you're gonna have a pretty solid business idea if you can profit off of it.
Okay, allow us to move to topics of, would we recommend this book be a course for college students? To be more specific, if you designed a one semester course based on the book, what would you think the final project would be?
I'll start. So I think that the final project for a course based on this book would be a presentation, or specifically a pitch idea. So pitching a product idea to a panel of judges, and yeah, it'd be similar to a thesis defense, but I feel like it would be best as a warm up for a future thesis defense.
I actually agree with Javi. So, having it as a thesis defense, the panels or professionals will actually dive deeper into the model that you have presented and check out for loopholes or, holes into your business model, and so that you would actually learn if the business, your presentation or your, do you call this? Your
Pitch.
pitch is actually a solidified idea when you are going to actually apply it to the real world. So having professionals check out your work first would be very helpful into making it into a solid project or pitch. Yeah.
Okay, in relation to that idea of the final project, how do you think we could assess the students? How do you think we can grade them? Because I believe how we can grade them is, as you said, you wanted it to be a sort of pitch. I think it's not just about the pitch, but I think it's also about the type of deliverable they're trying to give. Try to once they actually do the research and pitch their product to us, we also have to see a sort of metric that there are people who are willing to buy this sort of thing. For example, I'm sure everyone's seen what they've currently doing with the ABM courses. I think something similar can be done if we do a sort of course with course of the book.
Well, I'd say that the deliverables would be, I guess, if we're gonna go through the whole book, it would be good for the students to have to write. I mean, this is a traditional thing, but write an essay on each
reflection
chapter,
paper.
or condense the chapters into specific blocks, like what we did, and create a presentation. Or a presentation is better than an essay because it's more visual.
Yeah, I'm not denying them on the presentation itself, but it's still highly encouraged. Your presentation can only go so far unless you can actually prove that
Yeah.
the book actually works, which is why I recommend show us the product and show us that people are actually willing to use this type of product.
Let me add. So the book also discusses certain, for example, in primary market research, chapter 1A, you can have the students actually go out and actually conduct a mock primary research, try to find going out and doing interviews for finding out a buyer persona for a specific product and seeing if it actually lines up with what they've written down for their product idea. And so I think, you can apply some of the frameworks from the book, have people go out and see if they can practically apply it. as a test or so.
Okay, allow me to ask if this was a course. Which chapters do you think can be taught in the first semester and the second semester? Because I believe that if done correctly, you can have the general ideas, or at least the ideas of each chapter be taught in a single semester. Then the application of those ideas can be done in another semester.
Yeah. Because applying it would really take up too much time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you really want them to be introduced to the ideas first to have them better fully understand. Then for them to actually put them into practice, actually put them in practice and showcase, like with the pitching idea, they have to do it in the second semester, like with stuff like capstone.
Yes, exactly.
And the ABM courses.
Yeah, and they can actually do the whole process, and they would have more data to track, basing on, that span of semester. Yeah.
Allow us to start going with the quick fire round, or the lightning round. So
Chapter.
now, first one would be, what do you think is the best chapter, and describe it with just one word.
For me, best chapter, chapter 0, essential. Worst chapter, chapter 8, that's quantified value proposition, QVP. One word, subjective.
The best chapter I'd say is defining the core. The one word I'd describe it is, as you said, essential. It's essential to just any sort of business.
Okay, quick fire. Best chapter, one word.
For step 18, it's profit. And then worst chapter would be step 17 and calculation.
Okay, nice. So, one sentence summary of the book. Start with you.
Okay, for one sentence summary of the book, remember, this is just a guide that will try to increase the odds of you succeeding in entrepreneurship.
One sentence summary of the book.
The customer is always right.
Nice. Well,
How about you? You haven't said anything.
yeah, you stole my idea, but let's. Well, yeah, I'd go off on that. I'd say that focus on the customer's pain.
That's true.
Okay. What do you guys think is the one thing we'd remove from the book if we could? In my opinion, I'm pretty sure we can all agree on this. Remove the sub chapters and just combine it with the original chapter.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we have something like chapter 1A, then we have chapters like 13A.
And it's just focusing on one whole thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all in agreement there. It's 24 steps, but it's really 27 steps. 24 sounds better.
How about one thing that we add to the book? Any ideas?
I feel like all it could have. I mean, it's not his expertise, but expanding more on, I guess, artistic pursuits in the book, like what, for example, the creative industries. I feel like there could be more written upon that.
I'd have to agree with you on that because if you've noticed, it's a lot of it. You barely see anything in terms of the creative industries.
Yeah.
What I'd really like, as again, it's kind of bias, would be a more look into for the game industry.
Okay. I actually agree with both of you on that. Okay.
So for the closing takeaways, what is one concrete next step that each of us will take as a result of this book?
With the one concrete step I'll take is normally I'll start looking a lot more deeper into the game development business because it's very important. Once you look into this, you start understanding the reasons behind a lot of decisions made within game development companies. And once you understand that, I wouldn't say you have a more likely chance to be hired, but you'll have a more likely chance to understand how the entire industry works, and it'll help you get into it. Once you have one foot in the door, you're most likely be able to go in.
Well, for me, the next step that I would take as a game developer is to know how I could actually publish the game that we have made. Since we are done with testing and play testing with different types of people with different backgrounds, the next step that I would like to take is to distribute the game in correct platforms like Steam, any other platforms, to be exact. How about you?
Oh, I agree with you guys. I mean, the games that I've worked on over the past year, I feel like some of them we can expand on actually making them games that we could sell. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how I can turn these games into profitable things. Definitely gonna explore options on monetization, getting them onto platforms, selling our games. So, Chino, recommend one local resource, such as a mentor, org, or group, that pairs well with the book.
This is not sponsored in any way, considering where we are, but I'd like to recommend HiFi, an incubation hub for startups and ideas.
Yes, the hub of innovation for inclusion.
Yeah, we all agree on that, for sure.
Can I add anything?
Moving forward,
No, no.
if listeners read only one chapter, which should it be and why?
Again, I'm a bit biased on this, but again, the really one thing you really have to focus on is just building that core, which would be chapter 12, I believe. Hey, wait, no, I was wrong. Chapter 10 pala. Okay, the one thing I'd really recommend, this is a bit of a bias, would be chapter 10, which would be defining the core, because that's what really every business is going to be about. And as I mentioned earlier, once you've built upon that, you're practically able to know where you stand in the business world.
All right.
Okay. For me, I would say step 22, which is defining the minimum viable business product. Since when you already define what is your most basic product that you could sell, you could use that to actually test with other people if it will work for them, if they actually pay for it, and you get their feedback. So I think that's one of the most important steps for this framework.
All right. Well, I've mentioned it a lot of times throughout this podcast, but I guess I'll be saying it again. The one chapter that people should read, if they're only going to read one, is Step 0, getting started, because really, it lets you know whether or not entrepreneurship is something that you really are capable of doing, because it's not just about making money, it's about leveraging the opportunities you have. If you have an idea worth working on, do you have a technology that you can take advantage of? So the one chapter I feel that listeners should read, if they're only going to read one, is really Step 0. I've mentioned it a lot of times throughout this podcast, but Step 0 tells you whether or not entrepreneurship is really for you. It's not just about making money, it's about knowing whether you have an idea that's worth pursuing, technology, technology worth leveraging, and of course a passion for solving the customer pain, something specific that you want to work on, and that's really where people should start before considering anything else.
Okay.
So, and for our final, well, not yet final, but final pitch and the closing takeaways, why should our audience care about disciplined entrepreneurship?
Okay, you might not realize it, but in the current world we're in right now, just knowing about disciplined entrepreneurship will help you try to find jobs or make the jobs that you're trying to do. As mentioned in game development, just knowing about this would help you understand the entire market themselves. Because, again, everything right now is a business or has a business side to it.
Sean?
You're done? Okay, so for me, our audience should care about the disciplined entrepreneurship, since it will help you understand how a business actually works. Not just some businesses, but most businesses, all in all, since a lot of those businesses follow these frameworks to actually make the business work. So if ever you want to make your own business or your own business venture, you could use these frameworks to help you start off with that. That's all.
All
How
right.
about you, Avi?
Well, for me, well, if you're watching this HiFi podcast, you are already quite interested in entrepreneurship. So I'd say that checking out Disciplined Entrepreneurship is a great way to help get you started on your entrepreneurial journey. And that's why our audience should care about Disciplined Entrepreneurship by Bill Ollett. All right, so to wrap up, so where can listeners find more from Benilde HiFi and follow our work? Our listeners can find out more about Benilde HiFi by following us on Facebook, following us on our YouTube channel, Instagram. You can also come visit the office. We are here at 1049 Pablo Campos Street, Malate, Manila at Metro Manila.
Yeah, it's just near SDA building of Benilde.
All right, so my plan for my thesis following disciplined entrepreneurship is, well, Folklore is our is an award-winning game because we, at our capstone, we were given the award of highest overall grade based on the external panelists who were professionals in the game dev industry. We will be, with our game, we'll be definitely marketing this more. We believe it's a game that the country and people who are interested in this kind of in turn-based roguelikes will appreciate. We'll also be, I believe, entering our game into the Young Creatives Challenge Award for 2025 due at the end of this year. So hopefully we'll win more awards, get further recognition from the Philippine creative community.
Congrats, Abby.
Thank you.
Okay.
For you guys.
As for our thesis, who just actually won 2 awards this capstone term, it is an informative game about how you can prepare before, during, and after a flood. So, I mean, of course, it's won awards, but it's still not the best game. So, our plan is to improve the game more based on the art, the mechanics, and everything, and maybe enter it into some competitive GameCon events like Game Jam or something, right? We could actually use it for that.
We could, but honestly, what I really want this game to be is just an information tool, because that's what it really should be about.
Yes.
We're trying to send more of a message to people out there on what they could do, what they should do before, during, and after a flood. Because in our current climate, floods are really common, and it's hurting people, not only the people in the streets, along with the environment themselves. So we're really just trying to bring more awareness for our own health and for the people around us.
Exactly. Our target audience is not just about not just gamers in general, but everyone.
Anyone who can be informed.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're watching this and you want to help support our journey, you can follow us at so for the Folklore, the game that we worked on, you can follow us at 11:59 p.m. studios at itch.io. You can also support our game, which will be entered into the Young Creatives Challenge. And yes, that's about it.
And as for us, you can follow us at PNS Studio in itch.io for our game Flood. And thank you.